What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the Distance final video. And this one's for the fantasy contest. Abner versus Yhonny Perez, Bantamweight Championship. Overall, a decent fight. Perez coming off the victory over Abner back on Halloween. I think it was a big upset, to say the least, because Abner had just had the victory over Victor Chinian, and a lot of people were just predicting Abner to blow Perez, out the frame, but he didn't do it. In the fight, we saw heart, we saw determination, we saw, a very, when I say determination, Perez, had the will to win. And I can't even think of other words. As I mentioned in my other video, I'm just not in it right now. But Perez, showed in that fight that he not necessarily was he skilled, but he knew how to fight, and that's what he did against Abner. He fought him, and practically he outworked him. And when he outworked him, I think that's what led to the victory. Was he was winning the exchanges and he was getting the best out of him. And he's a fighter just like the fighter on the opposing side. In the blue corner, Abner. Abner is a fighter. He stands straight up. He squares up with you, and he has pretty good hand speed. And he uses his left jab to set up openings and stuff. He's a young fighter. He had just fought not too long ago. He's been fighting on Golden Boy cards. Been, as I mentioned, just came out, just been busy, had a good 2009, and is ready to capitalize on that good, last year, translated into this year. And overall, Mares versus Perez, I think, is one of the best fights you can make at the moment at bantamweight. I think it's one of the best you can make, but overall, this does have, because I'll tell you as much, because this has the makings to be a action-packed fight. Abner uses, as I mentioned, uses the left jab. His left jab sets up his counter, not necessarily the counter right hand, but the right hook, the wide right that he can land. Sometimes at will. He has good speed. He has pretty good skill. He kind of, but the problem with Mars though is, when he throws his left jab, he doesn't get the hands back in time. He wants to jab and move. He did mention on Rope-a-Dope Radio when I was listening, like last week, that he was going to come out and he was going to attack. And I don't think that would be the best idea against Yhonny Perez, who kind of used that strategy against Joseph Abner. Used the same strategy, and pretty much came out on the winning end because he was winning the exchanges. And I'm not sure if that's really the best idea for Abner. And maybe it can be. Maybe he could take him out early and the fight won't go into the later stages. But overall, and this is just my assessment, I think Abner has a good left jab. And his left jab, it doesn't necessarily, it's not used to really keep distance. It's pretty much used to set up the right hand. And in this fight, he wants to use the jab to kind of move. Use the left jab so he can move. Use the left jab, for distance. Use the left jab to set up the right hand, or whatever he needs to use. I think the left jab could be his main weapon, but he does want to keep a certain specific range away from Perez, because Perez, likes to throw combinations. Perez, likes to kind of stand on the inside. And Perez has showed that he can bang pretty much. Showed against Abner, took some hard shots, but he showed that he can give one back. So he does want to keep the range away. He does want to kind of step side to side. He wants some lateral movement, along with the jab. He wants lateral movement. He wants to follow it up with the right. He wants, it's practically what he wants. In this fight, in order to win, he kind of has to box a little more technical, than, I think technicality wins this fight for Mars. I think if he can keep that range, if he can, if he can move side to side, if he can follow up with the right hand occasionally, and follow up the right hand with the left jab and move, then he can very well win this fight. And Perez uses his left jab for a different reason. If you look at Perez fights, he uses his left jab to set up his combinations. He kind of boxes his way into using the combinations. It's kind of left jab, and then he comes in with the right hook and follows up with a few hooks, and he comes back out. He does a good job winning exchanges. In this fight, he does have to box his way in. He does actually want this fight to go into the later stages because I did see he kind of got second wind in the Agbeko fight, because it did seem in like the 7th round he was getting a little bit tired, and then like round 8 he came in and he started to work and continue working and started to build up a little bit of momentum in the fight. And when he started to build up momentum, he was winning exchanges. He even knocked that Becco down, though it was a headbutt. He knocked him down, but when he knocked him down, he started to gain more momentum, and kind of pumped himself up and just basically outworked him and out hustled him. And I think in this fight, Perez wants to out hustle Mares. I think he wants to out hustle. I think he wants to outland, and practically he wants to rough up. He wants to pretty much rough up Mares. He wants it on the inside. He wants this fight to be as close as possible against Mares. So I think that's what Perez needs to do in this fight. I think he needs to use the jab to set up his combinations as he usually does. He needs to keep a close range, and also I think the counter right hand is going to be there for him. I think the counter right hand is going to be there because, as I mentioned with Mares, he doesn't get that left hand back in time. So the counter right hand, I think counter, overhand right, counter right hook, counter right cross, mix up his counter shots, because what he does when he mixes up the counter shots, he's going to take the jab away. I think when he gets countered with the jab, it takes it. When he gets countered when he's using the jab, it takes the jab away. It takes that left jab away from Mares, and it doesn't really set up anything. He's going to be coming in power shot after power shot, and it can confuse him as well. It can confuse him. But overall, when I look at this fight, and this is another hard fight to score, and Mares has mentioned that he was going to come out and he was going to attack, and me personally, I don't think it's the best idea unless he can take him out early, or if he can take Perez out of his game plan. And I'm going to go with Abner Mares by a unanimous decision. I just think that Mares should win by unanimous decision. I think that he's a little more technically sound, though you can debate whether or not he's still green. That's practically the big question in this fight: is he still green? And I do think he has enough tools to beat Perez in this fight. But anyway, that was the distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.